"You don't touch me." The words were calm, too calm. The courtroom barely had time to process them before the crack echoed through the chamber, the sound of a palm striking skin. Gasps exploded across the gallery, a uniformed military police officer stood beside the defense table, jaw tight, hand still raised. The woman he had just slapped didn't stumble, she didn't cry, she didn't even blink. Judge Carter shot up from the bench. "Officer, what are you doing?" But it was already too late. The officer reached for her arm again, rough, unnecessary, aggressive, and in one fluid motion, trained and precise, she pivoted. A controlled strike, a sharp counter. The officer hit the polished courtroom floor before anyone could breathe. Silence, absolute silence. "If you want to see how power collapses when it oversteps," the woman said evenly, "watch carefully." Security froze. The judge stared. And for the first time that morning, nobody in that courtroom was sure who had authority anymore. Before we go further, subscribe. Because what just happened isn't about a slap, it's about what happens when someone misjudges the person they think they can control. Her name was Captain Alana Brooks, and this was not the first time someone underestimated her. The officer was still on the floor when Judge Carter's gavel struck so hard it echoed like a gunshot. "Order! Order!" No one moved. Captain Alana Brooks stood exactly where she had pivoted, posture squared, breathing controlled. Her expression wasn't rage, it was calculation. Two civilian bailiffs rushed forward, kneeling beside the fallen military police officer. He groaned, disoriented but conscious. "I didn't," he started. "Do not speak," the judge snapped. The gallery buzzed with whispers. Alana slowly raised her hands shoulder high. "I will not resist," she said evenly. "But I will not be assaulted." The judge's eyes were locked on her. Captain Brooks stepped back from the table. She complied immediately. No hesitation, no defiance. That detail did not go unnoticed. The prosecutor stood frozen, file halfway. "Open the defense counsel," a sharply dressed civilian attorney named Marlon Reeves exhaled slowly. "Your Honor," Reeves began carefully. "This incident began when Officer Grant made physical contact without provocation." "Without provocation?" the officer barked from the floor. "She lunged." "She did not lunge," Reeves cut in. Judge Carter raised his hand. "Officer Grant will remain silent until addressed." Alana's voice entered quietly. "Grabbed my arm." The judge turned to her. "Captain Brooks, explain your movement." She nodded once. "He ordered me to stand." "You were already standing." "Yes, Your Honor." "Then why did he touch you?" The officer attempted to sit up. She was refusing to comply. Alana didn't look at him. "I asked for clarification." The judge's jaw tightened. The room felt suspended. This had not been scheduled as a volatile hearing. This was a procedural review. Captain Alana Brooks, United States Army Military Police, decorated 12 years active service, stood accused of insubordination and conduct unbecoming following an incident on base involving a detainee transport. The allegation, excessive force. The irony in the room was suffocating. "If you want the full truth," Alana said calmly, "review the footage." The prosecutor shifted. "Your Honor, that footage is under review." "Under whose review?" Reeves asked sharply. The judge leaned forward. "Counsel, maintain order." Alana lowered her hand slowly. "I am trained to respond to unlawful force." He placed hands on me without a directive. The officer's face flushed. "You were being detained for contempt." "For asking a question?" The tension was rising again. Judge Carter inhaled deeply. "Captain Brooks, you will remain exactly where you are." "Yes, Your Honor." He looked toward the clerk. "Bring up the security camera from courtroom 3. A murmur rippled. "Officer." Grant's eyes flickered. The screen behind the bench illuminated. Wide angle, clear, bright courtroom lighting, every angle visible. The footage replayed the moment. Grant stepping forward, Alana standing still, her hands visible. Grant gripping her arm. Then, the pivot, the counterstrike. Controlled, textbook, Grant falling. Silence filled the chamber. The judge replayed it again. Slower. Alana's hand only moved after contact. Reeves folded his arms. Self-defense, he said quietly. The prosecutor's voice was more cautious now. Your Honor, regardless of sequence, a uniformed officer was struck, and a defendant was slapped. Reeves shot back. The word hung in the air. Slapped. Judge Carter paused the footage at the precise frame, Grant's hand against her face. There was no denying it now. If you believe authority excuses force, Alana said steadily, that's a dangerous precedent. The judge's eyes flicked to her. You will speak only when addressed. Yes, Your Honor. But the damage was done. The narrative had shifted. Officer Grant struggled upright, assisted by bailiffs. That was a compliance strike, he muttered. No, Alana said quietly. It wasn't. The judge's voice was colder now. Officer Grant, why did you make physical contact before issuing a final verbal warning? Grant hesitated. She was escalating. How? She challenged the order. Challenging is not resisting, Reeves added. The prosecutor remained silent. Alana's breathing remained steady. If you want courtroom stories where truth beats rank, she said softly, make sure you're subscribed. No one in the courtroom reacted to that quiet remark, but her composure was impossible to ignore. Judge Carter leaned back. Captain Brooks, your training includes hand-to-hand combat. Yes, Your Honor. And you are aware that striking an officer inside a courtroom is serious misconduct. Yes, Your Honor. Then why such force? Her eyes met his directly. Because he struck my face. No tremor, no embellishment, just fact. Grant scoffed. It was a corrective. The judge's gavel slammed again. Enough. He looked at the footage once more. The slap was clear, unmistakable. The gallery murmured again. A woman in the back whispered, he started it. The judge ignored it. Officer Grant, he said carefully. This court will open an internal conduct inquiry. Grant's head snapped up. Your Honor, silence. The shift in power was visible now. Alana did not smile. She did not gloat. She simply stood. Reeves leaned slightly toward her. Stay calm, he whispered. I am calm. But something else was happening. Judge Carter studied Alana with new scrutiny. Because her original case, the excessive force charge on base, suddenly felt less straightforward, he looked at the prosecutor. Bring forward the base transport report. The prosecutor complied. The allegation stated that Captain Brooks had applied unnecessary restraint to a detainee during transfer, resulting in minor injury. Alana's face remained unreadable. Captain Brooks, the judge began. The base incident. Did you strike the detainee? No, Your Honor. Did you apply a takedown maneuver? Yes. Why? He reached for my weapon. The room shifted again. That is not reflected in the initial report, the prosecutor said. Because, Alana replied evenly, the initial report was written by Officer Grant. All eyes turned toward him. Grant's expression hardened. That's irrelevant. Is it? Reeves asked. Judge Carter's fingers steepled together. Officer Grant, did you author the first report regarding the transport incident? Yes. And were you present during the entire encounter? Grant hesitated. Yes. Alana's voice was steady. He arrived after the detainee was already restrained. Grant's jaw clenched. That's a lie. Judge Carter looked at the clerk, summoned the base security footage. Grant shifted uncomfortably. The prosecutor's confidence was thinning. Because if the courtroom slap had revealed one thing, it was that Captain Brooks reacted only after being struck. And if that pattern extended to the base incident, the implications were serious. Alana stood motionless, composed, controlled. The judge looked at her carefully. You understand that if this footage contradicts you, consequences will escalate. Yes, Your Honor. And if it contradicts Officer Grant? He did not finish the sentence. The room didn't need him to. Authority had already begun to fracture. Alana's eyes briefly closed, not from fear, but from certainty. Because she knew something the rest of the courtroom didn't. And when that base footage played, It would not just question one officer's credibility. It would expose why he had followed her into this courtroom in the first place. If you think this is just about a slap, stay with this story. Because when rank turns personal, truth becomes dangerous. The clerk returned. Footage retrieved, Your Honor. The lights dimmed slightly as the monitor flickered again. Every person in that courtroom leaned forward. And for the first time that morning, Officer Grant looked nervous. The screen brightened. Base Transport Bay, 1942 hours. Wide, fixed camera angle. Bright overhead military lighting. Clear visibility. Captain Alana Brooks stood beside a restrained detainee, hands secured behind his back, seated on a steel bench. 2 other MPs were visible in the background. The timestamp ticked forward. 43:12. The detainee suddenly lunged sideways. His right hand slipped partially free from the cuff chain. He twisted sharply toward Alana's holstered sidearm. Gasps erupted inside the courtroom. The footage slowed, frame by frame. His fingers brushed the grip of her weapon. In one immediate fluid motion, Alana pivoted, trapped his wrist, and executed a controlled takedown. The detainee hit the floor hard but restrained. Her knee stabilized his shoulder, weapon secure. No excessive follow-up strikes, no aggression. Textbook, retention defense. The timestamp advanced. 43:29, Officer Grant entered the frame. 19 seconds after the takedown, the courtroom went silent. Judge Carter leaned forward. Replay that entry. The clerk did. Grant clearly entered after the detainee was already on the ground. The prosecutor shifted uncomfortably. Officer Grant's face drained of color. Alana remained motionless. The judge's voice was calm, but sharper now. Officer Grant, your written report states you witnessed the initial contact. Grant swallowed. I arrived as it began. The judge pointed at the timestamp. You arrived after. Grant's jaw flexed. It happened fast. It did, Alana said evenly. That's why training matters. The judge looked back at the footage. No unnecessary force, no repeated strikes, no misconduct, just response. If you're watching how quickly a narrative collapses under footage, Alana said quietly, you already know the truth matters. The judge ignored the remark, but several heads in the gallery nodded. Subtly, the prosecutor cleared his throat. Your Honor, even if the takedown was justified, the level of force could be debated. Debated? Reeves stepped forward. The detainee reached for her firearm. The judge's tone hardened. A firearm grab is lethal escalation. He looked directly at Grant. Why did your report omit that detail? Grant hesitated too. Long, I didn't see it clearly. You wrote that she initiated force without provocation. I believe she did. The judge's stare was unblinking. Belief is not evidence. Silence swallowed the courtroom. Grant shifted his weight. The power dynamic was no longer subtle. It was visible. Alana stood straight, hands folded in front of her. No arrogance, no celebration, only composure. The judge turned back to her. Captain Brooks, were there prior professional disagreements between you and Officer Grant? A pause. Yes, Your Honor. Explain. He filed a complaint against me 3 months ago. The courtroom stirred. For what? The judge asked. Failure to overlook procedural shortcuts. Grant snapped. That's not silence, the judge barked. Alana continued evenly. He authorized detainee transfers without full intake logs. I refuse to sign off. The prosecutor's brow furrowed. Officer Grant, is that accurate? Grant's voice lowered. It was an efficiency adjustment. Unauthorized? The judge pressed. Grant didn't answer immediately. Reeves stepped in. So when Captain Brooks refused to sign incomplete logs, you filed an insubordination complaint. That's unrelated, Grant muttered. The judge leaned back slowly. It appears quite related. The courtroom felt charged again. But differently now. Not chaotic. Revealing. Alana spoke carefully. He tried to move me off transport duty. Why? The judge asked. I asked for an audit. A sharper murmur rippled across the gallery. The prosecutor looked alarmed. An audit of what? Transfer documentation. Grant's breathing had changed. Faster. If you're starting to see why. This courtroom moment wasn't random, Alana said quietly. Keep paying attention. The judge's voice cut through. Captain Brooks, are you alleging falsified transport records? Yes, Your Honor. The prosecutor's voice tightened. That is a serious accusation. So is excessive force, Reeves replied. The judge studied both officers, one calm, one defensive. Officer Grant, he said evenly, did you alter any transport logs? No. Did you submit incomplete reports? No. Did you retaliate against Captain Brooks for requesting review? No. 3 quick denials. Too quick. The judge glanced toward the clerk. Request base internal affairs summary. Grant's eyes flickered. You can't just, I can, the judge replied calmly. The tension in the room had shifted from confrontation to exposure. Alana remained steady. Grant was unraveling. The prosecutor attempted recovery. Your Honor, this hearing concerns Captain Brooks' conduct, not a departmental audit. It concerns credibility, the judge corrected. And credibility is now central. He looked at Alana. You maintained composure even after being struck. Yes, Your Honor. Why? Because escalation favors the aggressor. The room absorbed that. The judge's gaze sharpened. You did not continue striking after he fell. No. Why? Neutralize threat. Clear. Concise. Professional. The contrast between the two officers was becoming undeniable. A court officer hurried in, handing papers to the clerk. The clerk passed them to the judge. He reviewed silently. His expression shifted subtly. Not shock. Recognition. Officer Grant, he said slowly. Internal Affairs flagged discrepancies in 3 transport logs last month. Grant froze. That review was incomplete. It notes your badge access during off-cycle documentation edits. Grant's silence was louder than any objection. The gallery leaned forward. Alana did not move. She already knew. The judge looked, back at the footage still paused on the screen. The moment Grant entered after the takedown, then back at Grant. You accused her of unnecessary force. Yes. You authored a report contradicting video evidence. You struck her in my courtroom. Grant's jaw tightened. She provoked. The gavel slammed. You will not justify physical assault in my courtroom. Silence. Heavy, controlled. Judge Carter inhaled slowly. This court is not merely evaluating a defensive maneuver. He looked directly at Grant. It is evaluating integrity. The prosecutor no longer looked confident. Reeves remained still. Alana stood calm, almost statuesque. The judge turned to her. Captain Brooks, did you anticipate retaliation when you requested audit review? Yes. Is that why you recorded documentation? Yes, the room reacted. You recorded? The prosecutor asked sharply. Body cam. The judge's eyes sharpened. Body cameras are not standard in transport bays. Mine was active, she replied. Why? Policy allows discretion. During detainee movement, Grant's face went pale. The judge leaned forward. Produce that footage. Alana nodded once. Reeves handed over a secure device. The clerk connected it. The screen switched. Clear audio. Detainee breathing hard. Alana's voice. Calm. Do not reach. The detainee lunging. Her response. Then, Grant's voice entering off screen. You. Always make it dramatic, then clearer. You think you're better than everyone. The courtroom froze. That line wasn't procedural. It was personal. Grant shifted uncomfortably. The judge replayed it. You always make it dramatic. Then, you think you're better than everyone. No mention of excessive force. No concern for safety. Just resentment. Alana's face did not change. The judge looked at Grant carefully. Personal conflict? Grant stayed silent. The prosecutor attempted damage control. Your Honor, workplace tensions do not negate misconduct. They explain motive. Reeves said evenly. The judge's tone was controlled. Officer Grant, did you follow Captain Brooks into this courtroom today of your own request? Grant hesitated. I was assigned. By whom? No answer. The room felt suffocating because the slap now looked less like impulse and more like escalation. The judge leaned back. This court will recess for 15 minutes. The gavel struck. But no one moved quickly, because everyone in that room understood. The incident wasn't random. It wasn't emotional instability. It was retaliation, and retaliation inside a courtroom had just become far more dangerous for the wrong person. Alana remained standing, composed, silent, while Officer Grant stared at the floor, realizing the strike he thought would humiliate her had just placed him under a microscope he couldn't control. 15 minutes later, the courtroom filled again, but the atmosphere had changed, no longer shock. Now, scrutiny. Officer Grant no longer stood near the defense table. He sat beside a base legal advisor who had quietly entered during recess. Captain Alana Brooks remained at her position, posture straight, expression steady. Judge Carter returned, eyes sharper than before. All rise. They sat. This hearing will proceed with expanded scope. The judge began evenly. The court will now examine potential retaliatory conduct and report discrepancies. The prosecutor looked uneasy. Reeves looked prepared. Grant looked contained. But tense. Officer Grant, the judge said calmly, who assigned you to appear in this courtroom today? Grant cleared his throat. Base command. Specify. Lieutenant Colonel Harris. The judge nodded toward the clerk. Contact Colonel Harris. Within minutes, a secure video line was established. The colonel's image appeared on screen. Composed, formal. Colonel Harris, the judge said, did you assign Officer Grant to supervise Captain Brooks in this hearing? The colonel frowned slightly. No, Your Honor. I was informed he volunteered to attend. A quiet ripple passed through the gallery. Grant's jaw tightened. Volunteered? The judge asked. Yes. The prosecutor's confidence visibly weakened. The judge ended the call. Officer Grant, he said slowly, why did you volunteer? Grant hesitated. To ensure proper custody compliance. She was not in custody, Reeves said sharply. Grant said nothing. Alana finally spoke. He's been trying to discredit me for months. Silence unless addressed, the judge reminded, but without harshness. He turned back to Grant. Did you recommend Captain Brooks for removal from transport duty? Yes. On what basis? Pattern of unnecessary force. Pattern? The judge asked. How many incidents? Grant paused. 1. The silence that followed was devastating. Reeves stepped forward. Your Honor, the alleged pattern was a single documented defensive action. The judge's voice remained controlled. Officer Grant, your credibility is deteriorating. Grant swallowed hard. Alana did not move. If you want to see how quickly power shifts when facts surface, she said quietly, stay focused. The judge ignored the remark but did not reprimand her. Captain Brooks, he said, have you filed any formal complaints regarding Officer Grant prior to today? Yes, Your Honor. When? 6 weeks ago. For what? Improper. Detainee documentation and verbal harassment. The prosecutor blinked. Was that complaint acknowledged? No. Why not? It was reassigned. To whom? The judge pressed. Alana met his gaze directly. To Officer Grant. The room erupted in murmurs. The judge's gavel struck hard. Order. He leaned back slowly. A complaint against Officer Grant was routed to Officer Grant? Yes, Your Honor. The base legal advisor shifted in his seat. The judge's tone cooled. That suggests internal procedural failure. Grant finally snapped. This is turning into a witch hunt. No, Reeves said calmly. It's turning into accountability. Grant stood abruptly. She disrespects authority constantly. Alana's voice was steady. I question shortcuts. You question rank. I question violations. The judge raised a hand. "Sit down, officer." Grant remained standing for a half-second too long before complying. The judge looked at Alana. "Captain Brooks, did Officer Grant ever threaten disciplinary action for your audit request?" "Yes." "Explain." "He said I was making enemies." Grant's face reddened. "That was advice?" "It was intimidation," she replied. The judge observed both carefully. The courtroom no longer felt chaotic. It felt surgical. Every word weighed. The prosecutor attempted to reassert control. "Your Honor, even if internal tensions existed, that does not excuse striking an officer." "No," the judge agreed, "but it contextualizes the strike." He turned toward Alana. "You delivered a single counterstrike." "Yes." "You ceased immediately once he fell." "Yes." "You did not pursue further contact." "No." The judge looked back at Grant. "You initiated physical contact." Grant hesitated. "Yes." And struck her face. "I was maintaining order." "You were escalating." Grant had no answer. The judge leaned forward slightly. "This court will make an interim finding." The room stiffened. Based on video evidence, Captain Brooks acted in immediate response to physical assault. Grant's eyes widened. "Her counteraction is preliminarily deemed defensive." The prosecutor inhaled sharply. The gallery murmured. Alana remained still. No smile. No visible relief. "If this analysis continues in the same direction," she said quietly, "make sure you're paying attention." The judge continued. "Officer, Grant's conduct inside this courtroom warrants referral for formal review." Grant's composure fractured. "This is ridiculous." "No," the judge said evenly. "This is documented." The base legal advisor leaned toward Grant, whispering. Urgently, Grant's hands clenched into fists. The judge noticed. "Officer Grant, control yourself." Grant inhaled sharply. The irony was heavy. The man who accused her of instability was unraveling under scrutiny. Judge Carter turned to Alana. "Captain Brooks, did you anticipate he would provoke confrontation today?" "Yes." "How?" "He has done it before." "Physically?" "No." "Professionally?" The judge nodded. "Explain." "He attempted to corner me in briefing rooms, questioned my evaluations publicly, suggested I was emotionally reactive." The prosecutor's voice was measured. "Do you believe his conduct was racially motivated?" The room went very still. Alana did not rush the answer. "I believe it was threatened authority." "Clarify." "He does not like being corrected." Grant scoffed. The judge silenced him with a look. Alana continued calmly. "I outrank him in field operations." The courtroom absorbed that. He resented that. Grant muttered under his breath. The judge heard it. "Speak clearly or not at all." Grant stared forward. The judge folded his hands. "This matter has evolved beyond a simple excessive force allegation." He looked toward the clerk. "Notify base command that a broader conduct inquiry is underway." The prosecutor stood slowly. "Your Honor, are charges against Captain Brooks dismissed?" "Not yet," the judge said carefully. "But they are significantly weakened." Grant's breathing became audible. The judge's gaze hardened. "Officer Grant, did you ever suggest to colleagues that Captain Brooks should be put in her place?" Grant froze. The base advisor stiffened. "I never—" The judge raised a document. Witness statement from Sergeant Miller. Grant's face drained of color. The courtroom leaned forward again, because this was no longer about a slap. It was about motive, power, control, and who abused it first. Alana stood calm while the weight of the room shifted further away from her. For the first time since the hearing began, Officer Grant looked like the defendant.